they vanished into thin air. Children, teenagers, even adults, taken from streets, homes, and playgrounds. Some left behind chilling clues, others nothing at all. For decades, their families have lived with a single question: where did they go? These are the creepiest unsolved kidnapping cases in history. Cases that haunt investigators, terrify communities, and continue to baffle the world. It was a warm spring morning in New York City, May 25, 1979. 6-year-old Etan Patz begged his mother to let him walk the 2 blocks to his school bus stop alone. It was a short distance, a safe neighborhood. His mother agreed. Etan slung on his backpack, smiled, and walked out the door. He never made it to the bus. Within hours, panic set in. Etan's face, with his wide, innocent eyes, became one of the most recognized missing child images in American history. For years, his picture appeared on milk cartons across the country, sparking the missing child movement. Thousands of tips poured in. None solved the case. Decades later, a man named Pedro Hernandez confessed to luring Etan into a store basement and killing him. But his story was riddled with inconsistencies. After multiple trials, he was convicted in 2017. And yet, some investigators still doubt. Was Hernandez telling the truth, or was someone else responsible? Etan's case changed America forever. It led to new laws, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and a nationwide effort to protect children. But for his family, the pain never ended. His body was never found. And the haunting question remains: what really happened to Etan Patz? June 7, 1992, Springfield, Missouri. Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall had just graduated high school. That night, they partied with friends, celebrating their future. By dawn, they returned to Susie's home. Inside was Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt. By morning, all 3 were gone. The house was left untouched. Purses, cars, keys, even cigarettes, all still there. The front porch light's glass globe was shattered. A small clue, but perhaps important. But there were no signs of struggle, no forced entry. It was as if they had stepped outside and never returned. Kidnapping. Some believe someone they knew lured them out. A serial killer connection. A convicted killer once hinted at involvement, but nothing was ever proven. The buried evidence. Rumors circulated about bodies buried under a local hospital's parking garage, but no searches have confirmed it. 3 people, gone, without a trace. The case still haunts Missouri. It remains one of the eeriest unsolved disappearances in U.S. history. May 3, 2007. Praia de Luz, Portugal. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann was asleep in her family's holiday apartment while her parents dined just yards away at a nearby restaurant. When her mother checked on her around 10 p.m., Madeleine's bed was empty. The window was open, the curtain fluttered, and the world would never be the same. Portuguese police launched one of the largest investigations in history. The case dominated headlines worldwide. Witnesses reported seeing a man carrying a child that night. The McCanns themselves were controversially named suspects, though later cleared. A German drifter, Christian Bruckner, has more recently been identified as a prime suspect. Yet no definitive evidence has ever been found. Madeleine's face became global. She is one of the most recognized missing children in the world. Books, documentaries, and endless theories swirl around her case. Was it a break-in? A planned abduction? A cover-up? The mystery endures. Christmas Eve, 1945. Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sauter family home went up in flames during the night. Parents George and Jenny escaped with 4 of their children, but 5 children were trapped inside. When the fire was extinguished, no remains were found. Experts said the fire wasn't hot enough to completely cremate bodies. Bones should have remained, but none were discovered. Even stranger, phone lines to the house had been cut. A ladder usually resting by the home was missing. Witnesses later claimed to see the children alive, far from Fayetteville. A mafia involvement. George Sauter had outspoken political views and enemies. Some believe the children were kidnapped as retaliation. A staged deaths. Did someone take the children and use the fire as a cover-up? The Sodders spent their lives searching, posting billboards, and chasing rumors. They never found answers. January 26, 1966. Adelaide, Australia. Jane, Arna, and Grant Beaumont, aged 9, 7, and 4, spent the day at Glenelg Beach. Their mother expected them home by noon. They never returned. Witnesses reported seeing the children with a tall, blonde man. They appeared happy, not distressed. By evening, panic set in. Police launched one of Australia's largest manhunts. The predator lured them away. Some believe the Beaumonts were victims of a sex trafficking ring. Decades later, excavation at a factory owned by a known suspect uncovered nothing. To this day, no trace of the children has been found. The Beaumont disappearance forever changed Australian society. Parents grew fearful. Stranger danger became part of the culture. And the beach where children once played carefree was never the same. These cases, from New York to Australia, share something chilling. They involve ordinary families, ordinary days, ordinary lives. And then, in an instant, everything changed. The missing never returned. The questions were never answered. The nightmares never ended. But these are just the beginning, because there are more, far more, cases where people were taken without a trace. March 1st, 1932. East Amwell, New Jersey. Charles Lindbergh was one of the most famous men in America, a national hero for completing the first solo nonstop flight across the Atlantic. But on this night, fame would not protect his family. Around 9 p.m., the Lindbergh's 20-month-old son, Charles Jr., was taken from his crib. A ransom note was left on the windowsill, demanding $50,000. News spread like wildfire. The Lindbergh baby kidnapping became the most famous crime in America. Ransom money was paid. But weeks later, the child's body was found less than 5 miles from the Lindbergh estate. 2 years later, Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German carpenter, was arrested after ransom bills were traced to him. He was tried, convicted, and executed. But many argue the evidence was circumstantial. Did Hauptmann act alone, or at all? Or was it an inside job? Or could the Lindberghs themselves have staged the abduction? The truth remains debated nearly a century later. Colleen Stan, 20 years old, was hitchhiking to visit a friend. A couple in a car offered her a ride. She accepted. That decision would change her life. Cameron and Janice Hooker abducted her. They held her captive for 7 years. For long stretches, Colleen was kept in a coffin-like wooden box under their bed. She endured unspeakable abuse. Cameron manipulated her with lies, claiming she was controlled by a powerful organization called the Company. If she disobeyed, they would kill her family. For years, Colleen complied, even returning to the Hookers after brief chances to escape. Finally, in 1984, Janice confessed to police. Cameron was arrested and sentenced to 104 years in prison. Colleen's story is one of the most horrifying examples of prolonged captivity in U.S. history. It is proof that monsters often hide in plain sight. September 5, 1982. Des Moines, Iowa. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch left home before dawn to deliver newspapers. By sunrise, his wagon was found full of papers. Johnny was gone. Police initially assumed he was a runaway, but witnesses reported seeing Johnny being forced into a car. His mother, Noreen Gosch, became one of the loudest voices in the fight against child abductions. She insists Johnny was taken by a sex trafficking ring. Over the years, Noreen claimed Johnny visited her once as a young adult, frightened, accompanied by another man. She also received disturbing photographs of bound boys in the mail, though their authenticity is debated. Johnny's case helped pass laws requiring immediate police response to missing child reports. But his fate remains unknown. June 10, 1991. South Lake Tahoe, California. 11-year-old J.C. Lee Dugard was walking to her school bus when a car pulled up. A man and woman inside stunned her with a device and forced her inside. She vanished. Philip and Nancy Garrido kept J.C. hidden in their backyard compound for 18 years. During that time, J.C. gave birth to 2 daughters, fathered by Philip. She raised them in captivity, cut off from the world. In 2009, Garrido appeared at a college campus with two young girls. His odd behavior drew suspicion. Police investigated, and JC's nightmare finally ended. JC has since written a memoir, courageously sharing her story of survival. Her case shows both the depths of human evil and the resilience of the human spirit. September 12, 2014. Kendal, New South Wales, Australia. 3-year-old William Tyrrell was playing in his foster grandmother's yard, dressed in a bright Spider-Man suit. In the span of minutes, he vanished. Police scoured the area. Neighbors searched the surrounding bushland. Helicopters circled overhead. No trace of William was ever found. Theories ranged from a stranger abduction or a targeted crime connected to William's foster family, a tragic accident covered up. Despite years of investigation, the mystery endures. William's face, smiling in that Spider-Man costume, is seared into Australia's memory. Between 1979 and 1981, Atlanta was gripped by fear. At least 28 children, teenagers, and young men, mostly African American, were abducted and murdered. Wayne Williams, a local man, was arrested in 1981. He was convicted of 2 murders, with law enforcement attributing many of the other deaths to him as well. But controversy surrounds the case. Some families believe Williams was framed. Others think multiple killers were involved. To this day, not all cases have been officially solved. The scars remain deep in Atlanta. October 22, 1989, St. Joseph, Minnesota. Jacob Wetterling, 11, was riding bikes with his brother and a friend when a masked man stopped them. He forced Jacob into the woods. Jacob never returned. For decades, the case haunted Minnesota. His face appeared on posters in schools, in the news. In 2016, nearly 27 years later, Danny Heinrich confessed. He led investigators to Jacob's remains. The confession brought answers, but also anguish. Jacob's disappearance had inspired the Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children Act, which created the first sex offender registry in the U.S. Even in tragedy, his legacy protected countless children. From the Lindbergh baby to J.C. Dugard, from William Tyrrell to Jacob Wetterling, some cases end with devastating answers. Others remain chilling mysteries. But in each one, the echoes of fear remain. Because the truth about kidnappings is this: they can happen anywhere, to anyone, at any time, and that's what makes these stories the creepiest of all. July 15, 1976. Chowchilla, California. A yellow school bus filled with 26 children was returning home from summer school. Behind the wheel was driver Ed Ray, a man the children trusted. But what happened next would become one of the largest kidnapping cases in U.S. history. 3 masked men stopped the bus at gunpoint. They forced the children and Ray into vans and drove them for 11 terrifying hours. Their destination? An underground quarry in Livermore. The kidnappers had constructed a buried moving truck, intended to hold their hostages. The children and Ray were trapped inside with minimal air, food, and water. The plan was simple: demand a ransom of $5 million from the state. But after 16 hours underground, Ed Ray and several older boys managed to pry open the heavy lid. One by one, the children climbed out, dirty, dehydrated, but alive. The kidnappers, Frederick Woods and brothers James and Richard Schoenfeld, were caught and sentenced to life in prison. The Chowchilla children survived. But decades later, many still struggle with the trauma. It remains one of the most chilling examples of how greed can turn into horror. August 24, 1951. Cleveland, Ohio. 10-year-old Beverly Potts loved music and dance. That night, she went with friends to a free talent show at Halloran Park. Her friends walked home afterward. Beverly did not. By morning, the neighborhood was in panic. Hundreds searched the park and surrounding streets. But Beverly had vanished without a trace. A neighbor with a troubling past. The drifter seen near the park. Even rumors of a family secret. But no arrests were made. Years later, a local newspaper received anonymous letters claiming Beverly's body had been buried near the park. The writer said he was dying and wanted to confess. Police searched but found nothing. To this day, Beverly Potts' fate is one of Cleveland's oldest mysteries. June 9, 1995, Alma, Arkansas. 6-year-old Morgan Nick was at a Little League baseball game with her mother. During the game, Morgan asked if she could catch fireflies with other children. Her mom agreed just a few feet away. Minutes later, Morgan was gone. A red pickup truck was spotted near the field. A man was seen talking to the children, but Morgan was never seen again. Her mother, Colleen Nick, became a fierce advocate for missing children. In her honor, the Morgan Nick Amber Alert Act was passed in Arkansas. Even today, every Amber Alert in the state carries Morgan's name. But the little girl who loved fireflies remains missing. November 19, 1988. Hayward, California. 9-year-old Michaela Garrick and her friend rode scooters to a local supermarket. When they returned to the bike rack, Michaela's scooter was gone. As she bent to look for it, a man grabbed her and forced her into a car. She screamed. Her friends saw it all. Police searched desperately. Tips poured in. But Michaela was never found. In 2020, over 30 years later, David Misch, already imprisoned for other murders, was charged with Michaela's kidnapping and murder. But without a body, questions linger. For Michaela's family, the decades-long nightmare is still not fully over. July 24, 1991. Kos, Greece. 21-month-old Ben Needham was playing outside his grandparents' farmhouse. His mother, Carrie, was working inside. When she came out minutes later, Ben was gone. Was he kidnapped by child traffickers? Did he wander off into the countryside? Or, as police later suggested, was he accidentally crushed by construction equipment nearby? British and Greek authorities conducted multiple excavations around the farmhouse. In 2016, investigators announced it was likely Ben died in an accident. But without remains, his family has never had closure. The image of blonde-haired Ben remains one of the most haunting missing posters in Britain. June 7, 1992. Springfield, Missouri. Susie Streeter, 19, her mother Cheryl Levitt, 47, and Susie's best friend Stacy McCall, 18, spent the evening celebrating graduation. The next morning, their home was empty. Cars in the driveway, purses inside. No signs of struggle, just gone. Abducted by multiple offenders? Targeted for something Susie had witnessed? A botched burglary that escalated? Despite thousands of tips, the Springfield Three have never been found. Their house, neat and undisturbed, remains one of the most unsettling crime scenes in U.S. history. May 25, 1979. New York City. 6-year-old Etan Patz left his home for the first time to walk to his school bus stop. He never arrived. Etan's face became one of the first to appear on milk cartons. His disappearance sparked the movement that changed how America responds to missing children. In 2012, Pedro Hernandez, a former bodega worker, confessed to luring Etan into the store and killing him. But with no body and decades of conflicting stories, some remain unconvinced. Etan's legacy, however, lives on. May 25th is recognized as National Missing Children's Day. From Beverly Potts to the Springfield Three, from Ben Needham to Etan Patz, these cases remind us that kidnappings are not confined to one place, one decade, or one type of victim. They happen in neighborhoods, parking lots, even inside family homes. And the scariest part? Many remain unsolved, leaving families in a limbo that never ends. January 26, 1966. Glenelg Beach, South Australia. It was a hot summer's day when Jane, 9, Arna, 7, and Grant boarded a bus to the beach. Their mother trusted them. After all, Glenelg was safe, and the children had made the trip before. They never came home. Several beachgoers remembered seeing the three siblings laughing and playing with a tall, thin, blonde man. They appeared comfortable with him, suggesting they may have met him before. Later, the children bought food with a £1 note. Odd, since their mother hadn't given them such money. And then, nothing. For decades, suspects ranged from local predators to traveling killers. One name stood out: Bevan Spencer von Einem, later convicted of another child's murder. But no solid link to the Beaumonts has ever been proven. The disappearance shattered Australia's sense of safety. Parents no longer let their kids roam free. Even today, the Beaumont case is considered the country's most haunting unsolved mystery. April 4, 1991. Clinton, Missouri. 20-year-old Angela Hammond called her fiancé from a payphone late at night. She mentioned a strange man circling in a green pickup truck. Then suddenly the line went dead. Her fiancé, Rob, rushed to the phone booth, arriving just in time to see the pickup speeding away with Angela screaming inside. Rob gave chase, but his car broke down. Angela was never seen again. Theories suggest she was taken by a serial offender known as the Clinton Killer, or that her abduction was tied to other Missouri disappearances. But Angela's case remains cold, her voice from that last phone call echoing like a ghost through the decades. May 3, 2007. Praia de Luz, Portugal. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann was asleep in a holiday apartment while her parents dined nearby with friends. When her mother returned to check on her, Madeleine was gone. The disappearance triggered one of the largest manhunts in history. Posters of Madeleine's face spread worldwide. Theories abounded: abduction by traffickers, a burglary gone wrong, even speculation directed unfairly at her own parents. In 2020, German authorities named Christian Bruckner, a convicted sex offender, as the prime suspect. But no charges have stuck. Madeleine's disappearance remains one of the most high-profile unsolved kidnappings in the world. June 10, 1991. South Lake Tahoe, California. At age 11, JC Dugard was walking to her school bus stop when a car pulled up. A stun gun, a scream, and then silence. For 18 years, JC lived hidden in the backyard compound of Philip and Nancy Garrido. She endured abuse, manipulation, and gave birth to 2 daughters while in captivity. In 2009, Garrido brought JC to a parole meeting. Suspicious officers questioned her. Slowly, the truth unraveled. JC revealed her identity: a woman in her late 20s, kidnapped as a child and hidden for nearly 2 decades. Her story was not an unsolved disappearance, but for nearly 20 years, it was one of the darkest mysteries of California. Christmas Eve, 1945, Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sauter family's home caught fire during the night. Parents George and Jenny escaped with 4 of their children, but 5 remained inside, or so it seemed, and no remains were ever found in the ashes. A ladder usually resting against the house had been moved. A phone line was cut. Witnesses later reported seeing the children alive, far from the fire. Were the Sauter children kidnapped in the chaos of the blaze? Was it retaliation against George Sauter, an outspoken critic of Mussolini? For decades, the family clung to hope, even erecting a billboard along Route 16 with the children's faces. But the 5 Sauter children remain among America's eeriest missing persons. October 22, 1989, St. Joseph, Minnesota. Jacob Wetterling, age 11, was riding bikes with his brother and a friend. A masked man with a gun forced them to stop. He ordered Jacob's brother and friend to run, but kept Jacob. He was never seen again. For 27 years, Jacob's disappearance haunted Minnesota. His mother became a national advocate for children's safety, leading to the Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children Act. In 2016, Danny Heinrich admitted to kidnapping and murdering Jacob. He led investigators to Jacob's remains. It was closure, but the pain of nearly 3 decades without answers had already scarred the community forever. June 22, 1983, Vatican City. 15-year-old Emanuela Orlandi left home for a music lesson. She never returned. Anonymous calls claimed she was kidnapped as leverage against the Vatican. Others linked her case to organized crime. Some theories even tied it to the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. In 2019, 2 graves in Vatican cemeteries were opened after anonymous tips. They were empty. To this day, the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi is one of the Vatican's darkest secrets. From beaches in Australia to the streets of Portugal, from Missouri phone booths to the very heart of Vatican City, these kidnappings span cultures, countries and decades. And yet, they share the same haunting silence. Questions with no answers. March 1st, 1932. Hopewell, New Jersey. Charles Lindbergh, America's aviation hero, put his 20-month-old son, Charles Jr., to bed. By a ransom note demanding $50,000 was left on the nursery windowsill. A crudely built ladder was found outside. The baby's blanket lay on the ground. Despite ransom payments and frantic searches, the toddler's body was later found in the woods, just miles from the Lindbergh home. Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant, was arrested. Evidence linked him to the ransom money and the ladder wood. He was executed in 1936. Many historians argue Hauptmann was framed or not acting alone. Was it an inside job? Did someone in the Lindbergh household betray them? Nearly a century later, conspiracy still swirls around what the press once called the crime of the century. August 23, 1912. Opelousas, Louisiana. 4-year-old Bobby Dunbar vanished while on a fishing trip with his family. Months later, a boy resembling Bobby was found in Mississippi with a man named William Walters. The Dunbars claimed him as their son, but Walters insisted the boy was Bruce Anderson, the child of a family friend. The Dunbars won custody. Walters was arrested for kidnapping. For decades, Bobby Dunbar lived his life, believing he was the missing boy. In 2004, DNA testing proved the man raised as Bobby Dunbar was not actually Bobby, but Bruce Anderson. So where was the real Bobby Dunbar? Over 100 years later, no one knows. March 24, 1998. Amy Bradley, 23, was on a Caribbean cruise with her family. She was last seen on the balcony of their cabin in the early morning hours. By sunrise, she was gone. Over the years, multiple witnesses reported seeing Amy in Curacao walking with strange men, in a Caribbean brothel where she allegedly begged for help. A photograph circulated of a woman resembling Amy in sexual slavery. Many believe Amy was abducted into human trafficking, one of the few cruise ship disappearances with repeated sightings. But no solid evidence has ever brought her home. June 7, 1992. Springfield, Missouri. After attending a high school graduation party, friends Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall spent the night at Susie's home. By morning, both girls and Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt, were gone. Their purses, cars, and keys were left behind. The front porch light was shattered. The family dog was left inside, distressed. No sign of struggle, no ransom demand. 3 women erased in one night. Some suspect a serial killer. Others point to local men involved in shady dealings. But with no evidence, the Springfield Three remain one of America's most chilling unsolved kidnappings. September 5, 1982. Des Moines, Iowa. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch left home to deliver newspapers. He never returned. Years later, his mother claimed Johnny visited her in the middle of the night, now an adult, with another man, and told her he had been abducted into a child trafficking ring. Authorities could never confirm this. Johnny's case inspired new laws for missing children and sparked national awareness. His face was among the first to appear on milk cartons across America, but his true fate remains unknown. October 24, 1961. Lincoln, Massachusetts. Housewife Joan Risch vanished from her home, leaving behind a kitchen splattered with blood and an overturned phone. Her toddler was found unharmed in her crib. Kidnapped by an intruder, voluntarily staged her disappearance to start a new life. Some claim she was inspired by crime novels she had been reading. But decades later, no trace of Joan Risch has ever surfaced. March 10, 1928. Los Angeles, California. 9-year-old Walter Collins vanished after going to the movies. Months later, police claimed to have found him in Illinois. But when Walter was returned, his mother, Christine, insisted it wasn't her son. Police dismissed her, even committing her to a psychiatric ward when she refused to accept the boy. Later, evidence tied Walter's disappearance to Gordon Northcott, the child murderer behind the infamous Wineville chicken coop murders. Walter's body was never found. May 25, 1979. New York City. 6-year-old Etan Patz left home for school and never returned. His disappearance shocked the nation. His face became one of the first to appear on milk cartons, symbolizing the plight of missing children. In 2012, Pedro Hernandez confessed to luring Etan into a basement and killing him. But with no body ever recovered, many still question if the full truth was uncovered. June 9, 1995, Alma, Arkansas. 6-year-old Morgan Nick was catching fireflies at a ballpark while her mother watched nearby. In a moment of distraction, Morgan was gone. Witnesses reported a red pickup with a camper shell. Leads flooded in, but none brought Morgan home. Her case led to the Morgan Nick Amber Alert System, a legacy of hope for other missing children. But Morgan herself is still missing. From high-profile cases like the Lindbergh baby and Madeleine McCann, to quiet disappearances in small towns that barely made headlines, these kidnappings remind us of one thing: every mystery carries both history and heartbreak. And while some led to new laws or awareness, for many families the pain of unanswered questions is a wound that never heals. January 26, 1966, Adelaide, Australia. On a sunny holiday afternoon, Jane 9, Arna 7, and Grant Beaumont 4 boarded a bus to the beach. They never came home. The witnesses claimed to see the children with a tall, blonde man. Their belongings, towels and clothes were left behind. Despite one of the largest manhunts in Australian history, no trace was ever found. The case shattered the nation's sense of safety. To this day, the Beaumont children are remembered as Australia's most haunting unsolved kidnapping. July 24, 1991, Kos, Greece. 21-month-old Ben Needham was playing outside his grandparents' farmhouse when he vanished. Police scoured the island. Theories ranged from abduction to accidental death and cover-up. In 2012, new digs suggested Ben may have died in a construction accident, his body accidentally buried. But no remains were ever found. His family still holds on to hope. April 8, 1969, Norfolk, England. 13-year-old April Fabb set off on her bicycle to visit her sister. She never arrived. Her bicycle was later discovered abandoned in a field. A local abductor. Connection to notorious child killer Robert Black. Or perhaps a disappearance orchestrated by someone close to her. The mystery of April Fabb still hangs heavy over Norfolk. December 4, 1972, Merced, California. 7-year-old Stephen Stainer was abducted while walking home from school. He was held captive for 7 years by Kenneth Purnell, who brainwashed him and passed him off as his own son. In 1980, Purnell kidnapped another boy, Timmy White. Stephen, realizing he couldn't let it happen again, escaped with Timmy and led him to safety. Stephen's heroism saved Timmy, but his own life ended tragically in a motorcycle accident at age 24. His story inspired the miniseries I Know My First Name is Stephen. November 19, 1988, Hayward, California. 9-year-old Michaela Garrick was abducted outside a grocery store while retrieving her scooter. A man forced her into a car and vanished. In 2020, authorities announced convicted killer David Mish was charged with Michaela's murder. But because her body was never found, the case still leaves many unanswered questions. May 3, 2007. Praia de Luz, Portugal. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann disappeared from a holiday apartment while her parents dined nearby. Reported sightings across Europe. A suspect list that included both locals and tourists. In 2020, German police named convicted offender Christian Bruckner as the prime suspect. But to this day, Madeleine has never been found. Her face remains one of the most recognized of all missing children. October 4, 2011. Kansas City, Missouri. 10-month-old Lisa Irwin vanished from her crib in the middle of the night. Her parents reported a break-in. A window was tampered with, lights left on, and cell phones stolen. Authorities questioned the parents, who insisted they were innocent. Some neighbors claimed to have seen a man carrying a baby that night, but without evidence, the case grew cold. Baby Lisa has never been found. June 4, 2010, Portland, Oregon. 7-year-old Kieran Horman disappeared from Skyline Elementary after a school science fair. His stepmother, Terry Horman, was the last known person to see him. She later failed 2 polygraph tests. Allegations of marital problems and suspicious behavior surrounded her. Yet no charges were ever filed. Kieran remains one of America's most baffling missing children. September 12, 2014, Kendall, New South Wales. 3-year-old William Tyrrell was playing in his foster grandmother's yard, dressed in a Spider-Man suit. Minutes later, he was gone. Police considered neighbors and strangers. One suspect, a convicted pedophile, was questioned but never charged. In 2021, investigators returned to the home area, believing William's body might be nearby, but no remains were found. William's case is still open. September 20th, 1988, Belen, New Mexico. 19-year-old Tara Calico went for a bike ride and never returned. Months later, a chilling Polaroid surfaced. A young woman and boy bound and gagged in the back of a van. Many believed the girl was Tara. The boy remains unidentified. The photo remains one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in an unsolved kidnapping. From Hollywood to small-town roadsides, from infants stolen from cribs to children snatched in broad daylight, each story is different, yet all share the same unbearable silence. No closure, no truth, no justice. And for the families left behind, that silence is the cruelest kidnapper of all. June 7, 1992, Springfield, Missouri. Susie Streeter, 19, her mother Cheryl Levitt, 47, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall, 18, vanished from Levitt's home overnight. Their cars, purses, and clothes were all left behind. The house was spotless, except for a shattered porch light. Friends who stopped by early accidentally cleaned parts of the scene before police arrived. The case, dubbed the Springfield Three, remains one of the strangest mass disappearances in U.S. history. September 5, 1982, West Des Moines, Iowa. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch vanished while delivering newspapers. Witnesses reported a strange man talking to Johnny. His mother, Noreen, claimed years later that Johnny visited her in secret, telling her he was alive but living under a false identity. She also connected his case to a nationwide child trafficking ring. To this day, Johnny has never been found, but his case fueled public fears about child abductions in America. May 25, 1979, Manhattan, New York. 6-year-old Etan Patz left his home to walk to the bus stop, but he never arrived. His case triggered national attention and led to May 25th being declared National Missing Children's Day. In 2017, Pedro Hernandez was convicted of Etan's murder after allegedly luring him into a basement. But without a body, and with doubts about Hernandez's mental stability, questions still linger. March 24, 1998, Caribbean Sea. Amy Lynn Bradley, 23, disappeared from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Multiple witnesses later claimed to see Amy alive in tourist areas. Some believed she was forced into human trafficking. A disturbing photo surfaced years later, allegedly showing her as a sex worker. Despite extensive investigation, Amy was never found. May 14, 2008, Minnesota. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson's car got stuck in a ditch. He called his parents for help, saying he was walking toward town. They stayed on the phone with him for 47 minutes, until he suddenly exclaimed, and the line went dead. Despite massive searches, no trace of Brandon was ever found. 50 cases, 50 lives swallowed by the unknown. These aren't just mysteries. They are open wounds, stories without endings, questions without answers. The common thread isn't just loss. It's the silence left behind. Silence that keeps families awake at night. Silence that stalks investigators. Silence that reminds us the world is often darker than we wish to believe. From the Beaumont children's sunny beach day to Brandon Swanson's last phone call. From the haunting Polaroid of Tara Calico to the still unsolved disappearance of Madeleine McCann, each case leaves us with one unshakable truth. Kidnapping doesn't just take the missing. kidnaps the lives of everyone left behind. And until these cases are solved, that silence will remain the loudest sound of all.